What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for November 16th, 2022. Flyers lost a tough one in overtime last night to the Columbus Blue Jackets, 5-4. Still, it's good to see them bounce back after two pretty poor showings over the weekend. So hopefully Tortorella has the ship corrected and we're well on our way to good things again. Tough loss for my Owls, 3 games into the season, and I don't know. The bubble might be burst. They are officially 1-2. They got the big win against Nova, but that both games now they lost to Wagner as well as Vanderbilt in overtime, pretty much in games that they played well the entire time, except for like a portion, like an 8 to 10, 12-minute portion in the second half that has allowed the team to get back into it and kind of push that into overtime. I will say they showed a lot of grit battling back to send it into overtime as they were down at one point, I think 11 or 12 with about 6 minutes or so left. Damian Dunn had a monster game, 38 points. It's concerning that Khalif Battle was not in the lineup for much of the second half, and I kind of read some of Aaron McKee's post-game interview, and he said he played the guys who wanted to be out there, or he felt they wanted to be out there. So it's worth monitoring that. But again, 3 games into the season, and you lost 2 games that you should have won, which would have gone a long way in helping your tournament resume come February or March. Now they painted themselves into a corner. They have 2 games this weekend. They got to play Rutgers, and then I forget who they will play on Saturday then, but they gotta get it together. So they'll play Friday at 5. So hopefully they can bounce back against Rutgers. If they lose that, then it might be trouble. I want to give a shout out to Jerry Stackhouse, who was on, which I didn't realize he was the coach of the Vanderbilt team. They showed a stat, which is even funnier, which I didn't realize, that Jerry Stackhouse and Aaron McKee were traded for each other by the Sixers back in like 99 or 2000. So pretty cool to see them both play. But hopping into the Wayback Machine today and going back to 1925 for what I feel is a pretty interesting story related to Philadelphia. And the Philadelphia Bobbies, which was the first women's baseball team to compete in barnstorming games around the country, they went to Japan and played a tour over there late in the fall in 1925. So on this day, November 16th, 1925, they played their final game in Kobe, Japan. And basically what they did was they played Japanese semi-pro, pro teams, and they were all women team, or an all-woman team, I should say, except for male pitchers and catchers. And I think from what I was able to kind of gather and research, they did that because the Japanese fans wanted the games to be competitive. So one of the things that they were able to find, and Edith Houghton was kind of like their big star player. She was a 13-year-old girl who played shortstop. And she kept a diary of the trip. There was others who kept diaries of the trip. But based on what they're finding in the diary, I mean, they won 60% of the games. So not bad for an all-women's team from Philly. So they left September 25th. They took a train all the way out to Seattle, and then they had to take a boat over to Japan. But everybody said like they ranged in age from like 13 to like mid to late 20s, but it's kind of like some real life league of their own stuff, which is it's kind of cool. But Edith Houghton was like the star player. She grew up basically in Strawberry Mansion. So she played baseball 25th and Diamond, right, basically, which is right where the Hank Gathers Rec Center is, if you're somewhat familiar with the area. So she died in 2001. She was 100 years old, and that's where they found the diary chronicling this whole trip. So the Inquirer has done some different things on it and whatever, but it was pretty cool because the Hall of Fame now has this, and it really kind of confirmed that this is what kind of was happening. So the League of Their Own sort of was, this would have happened, I guess, before the team in League of Their Own, because I believe that was either post-World War II or around World War II. But so Edith Houghton, her dad was a semi-pro player. She played on those fields down there. I'm pretty familiar with where they're talking about with those fields. Like I said, behind the Hank Gathers Rec Center. If you're a Temple person who ever lived in East Falls or Manioc, Roxborough, you used to take Diamond Street as like the shortcut to get to campus rather than taking the long way down 76 and whatnot. So like I know exactly where those fields are. But she tried out for this Philadelphia Bobbies team as a 10-year-old. Apparently she was like the best player on the team as a 10-year-old, became their starting shortstop, and then they just barnstormed America, and they held their own against a lot of those teams in America, which is what allowed them to go to Japan and be successful. The Japanese fans, according by all accounts, loved it. I was able to see some clips from like their newspapers and things like that. But after this whole the Philadelphia Bobbies thing, she played around in a couple other semi-pro teams and whatnot, and was able to actually hold her own. And then she kind of just stopped playing, I guess. Got married, had kids, whatever it may be. But Bob Carpenter, who was one of the owners of the Phillies back then, hired her in 1946 to be the first, I guess you could call it, designated scout. There's rumors that there was another scout that one of the other teams used more as like a promotional ploy, but like the Phillies actually hired her as a scout. And she basically, in an interview, it was pretty cool. Like she said, I guess it was something that the Hall of Fame or the Inquirer did, chronicling her life later on when they found out a lot about this. Basically, she said, it's very easy. All you got to do is look for the best players, and that's how I scout. And it's just kind of funny to hear it in that way, and just like her perspective, where to me, and I guess it's the difference between males and females. To me, I'm like, all right, let me see arm strength or do this. Does he have speed? 5-tool players. She's like, listen, you look for the best player on the team, and that's how we did it. She's like, talent is talent. And I guess when you're a 10-year-old prodigy as a little girl who's playing across the country, across the world, it's easy for you to say that. But I thought that was pretty cool. I figured it was kind of a slow week. Still disappointed from the Eagles. Flyers lost, Temple lost. So wanted to do a little sort of feel-good whatever story. But on this date in 1925, the Philadelphia Bobbies played their last game in their barnstorming tour of Japan, in Kobe, Japan. They returned home. Again, they had to take a ship then back. Then they took the train from Seattle back to Philly. So today was the last day, and it took them almost 2.5 weeks to get back. They came back on December 6th, but the city of Philadelphia, like, they welcomed them back as heroes, because everybody on the team, with the exception, I think I read 2, they were all Philadelphia natives. So this is a very Philadelphia thing. I was kind of surprised. I have never heard about this. Like, I'm pretty good, especially being a history teacher and being up to date on history and just the sports and everything. But like I said, pretty cool. Edith Houghton was the star of that team. So shout out to her for being possibly the first, maybe the second pro scout, but just for being a phenomenal ball player and competing with grown adult men and women at the age of 13, kind of like Monet Davis. And if you remember her from the Little League World Series a few years ago. So tough one, but hopefully this I educated you a little bit and you're able to take something away from this. But shout out to the Philadelphia Bobbies from 1925 on their barnstorming tour. Go have yourself some Wednesday. It looks like it might start clearing up, but it's going to get cold here. But until next time, I will see you when I see you.